people in my generation are having a real hard time, and it's going to get even worse. So if you're in your mid-30s and have not been through a recession, this is going to be a video for you, because you're going to learn your lesson in this recession. So if you are above 40, you've been through 2009, you worked during those times, and you know what it means to actually have emergency funds, to make moves that, hey, maybe this isn't the best move, or hey, maybe I shouldn't lease this super expensive car that I can get, not because I make so much money now, because of a certain situation with COVID and special conditions, so to speak, right? So we're gonna watch a video here that's coming up from a car dealer that I quite follow on TikTok, because he gives pretty solid advice. And so we're gonna watch that, and then we're gonna apply it to the job market, because I do talk a lot about the job market and about finance. So let's watch this video and listen to some really solid advice.
I know my content is very automotive focused, and I post nothing but dealership content to help consumers and empower them with the knowledge to make better financial decisions when buying. I want to take the time and reflect with you guys on what really matters. I lived in Florida for about 2.5, almost 3 years. I lived in Miami, to be specific, and I started calling out trends about how expensive rent was, how expensive the food was, how expensive it was to live in Southern Florida. Now, literally coming into 2025, over 500,000 people have left Florida, which is one of the biggest migrations out of a state aside from California currently. Florida on a whim, a lot of people bought into expensive luxury vehicles, a lot of people bought into expensive luxury leases, a lot of people bought into expensive luxury homes that come with high interest rates, predatory terms, and we all thought that everything was going to be well, the economy is doing well, we all thought everything will pan out the way everybody else said it was going to, and unfortunately it doesn't work that way. And we need to understand that we live in a consumer mentality, we live in a consumer market. Sell the sizzle, don't mention the steak. And I think this is the mentality that is cyclical in our economy, in our society, and we always seem to think that we know better and we understand better than history, and history always repeats itself. And this very much resonates with the type of content that I post, where we should take.
So I'm gonna pause right there, and this is so crucial, because I talk to job seekers every day, and everybody keeps telling me, oh, I was on this project that was the #1 company project, and this was going to be the biggest and best project, and then they're being let go because it wasn't the biggest and baddest project of the company. And I was the best employee, and I did all this, and they still laid me off. And I talk to people every day in the same situation. I'd like, oh, I was top performer, and they still let me go. And I'm telling you, it is just brutal. You gotta be aware, and you gotta know, like, hey, this is a certain type of market.
Take a minute to sit back and really understand the decisions that we make, because the decisions we make now will affect us in the midterm and long term. Everybody, including myself, who has over-leveraged themselves via using their credit to get a loan, using their credit to get an expensive luxury car, all are tasting the reality of what fads are and what's popular, and everything is starting to come back down to reality. People are upside down $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in their vehicle, and when they bought it, it was the hottest thing in the market. People were moving from Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, California, all to Miami, to Tampa, to Orlando, because it was the hottest and sexiest thing to do. Now things are settling in that it is too expensive, it is not practical, and it's not beneficial for the long term in their life. So what are people doing? People are bailing out their vehicles. They're letting the banks come pick them up because they're unable to pay the negative equity differences. People can't afford their $1,000, $1,500 a month car payment, which includes insurance. People can't afford their $3,000 to $4,000 a month apartment, not a home, apartment that they're living in. If we take a step back and be patient, we can attain the things that we wanted to have when those times were so hot and everybody was buying them and everybody was doing that. Eventually things come back down to reality, and there will always be a bigger and better thing. And when you prepare yourself, you will have a better opportunity to get in the bigger and better thing when everybody else is bailing out. That to me is the smartest thing, not so much buying things at peak market and then having reality smack you in the face of what it's really worth a year or two later. Let's all take a minute to better ourselves financially, mentally, physically, emotionally, by putting our emotions to the side and creating a better way for us to make decisions. That way we can be better suited for anything we get into for a long-term play rather than just a short-term play and allowing our emotions to get the best of us.
So if you haven't, please like and subscribe for this channel. I make videos like this all the time, and I'd love to get your insights on this. So this is what Warren Buffett is talking about, and this is what I've been talking about all along. It says, Warren Buffett has been saying this, and I try to implement this in my life all over. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. And I have people in their 60s reaching out to me saying, yeah, these young whippersnappers in their mid-30s are going to get hit with the biggest crisis ever. Credit card debt, housing thing that they got, and all of a sudden the jobs dry up, other things happen in life, and then all of a sudden you can't afford the nice house, you can't afford the Porsche, you can't afford the Beamer. You have to go back to the little Camry that you bought for $15,000 from CarMax with 100,000 miles on it, right? And you're gonna have to rent an apartment again, and you have to do all this. And I'm telling you, going up is nice, but coming back down is always what really, really sucks, right? And it's not only that it's housing or that it's jobs, it's just absolutely everything. Everything has its consequences. And when I look at some of these people that made moves, so here we go. So I got a listing. So I did a little research, and I found this place that's sold in Miami for $653,000. Then 2 years later, they try to list it. 3 years later, they try to list it for $950. Then from $950 to $900, then to $850. Then they removed the listing. They relisted at $799, and now it's down to $750. So now, if you take realtor fees, you take all these other things into consideration, you're almost back to the $650 where you bought the place. So you didn't make any money. And I'm telling you, if everybody's buying, everybody is jumping in, and everybody is trying to FOMO in, then it is not a good time for you to do anything. It's time to reflect, step back, and say, you know what? Maybe it's not my turn. Maybe I should just wait, what Warren Buffett says. That's why Warren Buffett is sitting on more cash than ever. When everybody else is going to be dead broke, this guy's just going to buy up everything because he's been smart. People have been calling him, oh, he lost out on these biggest opportunities and doing this and doing all that. But I don't think so. I think it's coming. And I see this with my career where we help people find jobs every day. It's not that their job's not out there. It's that it's competitive. And check out, one of our people just got a $30,000 bigger raise. No, actually got a job that's going to pay her $30,000 more, and she just got that. And I said, there are jobs out there, but you got to do it the right way. And you can't believe what other people are saying. It's like, oh, you just got to mass apply, do all these kind of things. No, you got to do calculated. You got to be strategic. And when I see stuff like that where I say, you can still do it. You can still get a high-paying job. You can still do it, but you got to put in the work. It costs you. It will cost you. Either you throw the money at somebody and say, hey, help me do it, and let me use their network, or then you got to put in the time and effort to build it yourself. And so I've been on a call 2 days ago, I think it was, where somebody said, yeah, I've been unemployed for 8 months now, and I'm sick of it. And I said, yeah, I bet 8 months is brutal. So what are you going to change? It's like, well, I need you to put me in touch with recruiters today. And I said, how so? What are you going to do? Well, I only want to do recruiters and hiring managers. That's what I want. And I was like, okay, so are you going to network or anything else? You have LinkedIn? Yeah, I have LinkedIn. I said, are you active? Yeah, I'm active. So it's like, yeah, show me the link. One connection, not even profile set up, right? And I was like, what do you mean you're active, right? And I'm like, well, I'll log in from time to time. I'm like, you don't even have your a profile picture or anything filled out on your educational side. How are you active? Well, I need to be putting recruiters today. And then I tell these people, like, hey, you gotta be realistic. You gotta be like, hey, you can't just build everything in less than a few hours. It takes time to build a network. And if you want to come and say, hey, let me use somebody else's network, it is going to cost you. And I know people are going to tell me in the comment section, oh, you should do this for free. You should give your network out. And I say, you know what? If you're going to post a comment like that, drop your LinkedIn below, because I can start referring you people then. And you see how willing your network is, because people that are demanding stuff like that are going to be the ones that will burn these connections like you wouldn't believe. And all of a sudden, you have no network because you referred the wrong people to the wrong places, and the whole thing's going to go up in flame, and your reputation in your industry is out. So what do you do? And people ask me, what do you do? What do you do? Well, if you're going to want to do it right, you got to be given. You got to be somebody that you want to be referred to. You want to be somebody that is nice to talk to. You want to be somebody that's like, hey, this is value. Oh, I see this. And starting to provide some values, starting to help out, starting to elaborate, right? Starting to just provide some value. And that can be in any form how you ever feel like, right? And when I look at it, so let's check this out. So when I look at these house prices, when I look at all these people that jumped in, that FOMO'd in, that are like, oh my gosh, that told me they were working on the biggest, baddest projects, and they can't lose their job because their project is getting what's making the company money, doing all this, and then they got laid off. We're also probably the ones that got the Yukon Denali. This one of these, the GMC Yukon is one of these biggest and most luxurious SUVs you can buy. And it's like the number 5 or something, depending on where you go. And when you look at it, the average lease payment is $1,200. So with insurance, it's about $1,600, right? So you go, you get that lease, you get that house. All of a sudden, back to the office. So what do? You can take the car, you can't take the house. So all of a sudden, you're like, I got to take the car. All of a sudden, you're back upstate from Miami to New York, right? Crowded area. It's like, oh shit, got to use the transportation. Can't use the Yukon anymore because pricing, right? Congestion pricing or whatever they have. And you're like, okay, got to do the metro. The house I can't keep. So you're selling the house at almost a loss. The Yukon's upside down on value. And all of a sudden, you got a problem on your hand, right? Or you say, you know what? Let me just find something in Miami. But if you're going to find something in Miami, you're most likely not going to pay the same. And then you can afford it anyways. So don't think that, hey, like I was going to move, I was going to do this, I was going to do that. And then you moved out of a whim because it was the hot thing to do. Like this Yusuf guy said online, said, yeah, you got to do it because this is what everybody's doing. And you left, and all of a sudden your company said, haha, just kidding, your remote job, back to the office. And now you're like, oh shit. And now you're scrambling. And you know what I'm not hearing people say? All these people that say, you need to buy, you need to buy, you need to buy, are saying, oh, your house is upside down? Yeah, there's such a thing. You just wiped out $120,000 in down payment that you did, or whatever, how much you did. You just wiped that out and you're walking away with nothing. There's people like that. Oh, you tried to Airbnb it and nothing happened. You couldn't get anybody, so now you have to sell. Yep, that's happening too, because if you're thinking about then, let me just Airbnb it. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to short-term rental it and I'm going to use this as my vacation home. And all of a sudden, your whole street is all from people up north that need to go back to the office, and everybody has the same idea. You're now in competition with everybody else, right? And so that's why I keep telling people, you got to be aware. You got to start networking. You got to put yourself out there in a super positive way and start contributing and saying, you know what? I can do this. I can get a high paying job. I can do it. But then you got to do what not everybody's doing. So if everybody's sending out these AI resumes clearly done by GPT, maybe I would do it myself and do better and submit project portfolios and reach out to hiring managers and see like, hey, I'd be a good fit, and doing all these kind of other things, because it's just brutal. It is just brutal. When you look at the numbers, some of these people, I watched this guy online talking about how they can't sell these houses. They can't sell them. Nobody's buying them. High interest rates, car repos are piling up. Nobody's buying cars. And I watched this guy from Las Vegas, Lucky Lopez called. He's like, hey, no, he's did a market update, and he said that finance application from this year to last year are down 50%. So if you were a car dealership and you had last year, you did like 1,200 loan applications, now you're doing 600. And the credit didn't get any better. And the banks aren't like, hey, I'm going to lend you more money because we're in a bad spot. No. Because they got lending restrictions and they don't want to come chase the car down, right? And so we're in times where young people like myself have to really look and make sure that, hey, the money we're spending is spending the correct way, and is spending it in a way that, hey, this is sustainable for a long period of time, and not take a short glimpse of COVID money and say this is the new normal, and saying, you know, like, I'm a contractor, I'm making $500,000 a month now because of all this COVID money and doing all that, and all of a sudden that dried up. People don't have money, insurances are squeezing everybody, doing all that. This is the market reality. This is where we're at. It is tough, and not every cycle is going to be an easy one. And I think my generation is going to experience that. And I know a lot of you guys have been saying, hey, I have no debt. I'm renting my house. I got everything covered. I drive a 1999 RAV4, and I live in an inexpensive area. I retired. I don't go to Starbucks. I don't drink expensive stuff. I don't have expensive taste, and I have zero debt. And I'm like, man, that's the way to go in times like this. And that's why Dave Ramsey's still around, because when you look at him, he says no credit cards, right? Don't do any credit cards. And people say, don't worry about it. You know, like, get the cash back, do all this. They're preying on people that are gonna not pay it. They're gonna say, hey, you know what? Get that credit card, pay us 30% interest, because that's gonna pay the 30%, right? The 30% interest is gonna pay for all the benefits and all these other points, right? And I'm just telling you, you gotta be cautious. You gotta be aware. And if you are in your 20s and 30s and are hoping to like land a job, and you're like, hey, I don't want any help, and you've been doing it for a year, I don't know what you're doing. And I say, mommy and daddy, cut the umbilical cord. It's time for these young people to get out and start saying, hey, you know what? It's time to make it. And when I talk to my Asian friends, they always say, oh, you know, Asian parents really help their kids out, and you know, they're gonna inherit the house and doing all that. Yeah, but they're also not gonna, if you're gonna tell them that, and they don't have to go out and get a job, and they just kind of sit at the house and not do much, you're not going to do them a favor. You need to tell them, like, hey, you're putting a shame on my family. You need to go out and get a job and do something. Because searching for a year plus with nothing in between, and you're like, hey, I'm not working, I'm just living at the house with my parents, I don't know. You gotta do something. Because once you will hit retirement, and once you will need money to live off of, right? Because every year you don't work, you're not paying into Social Security, you're not paying into your own retirement fund. And yeah, maybe your parents will leave you some money, but you need to live off something. So you gotta do it right. You gotta get out there and be a fighter. Because when you're looking at it, when you're looking at history, you're looking at all these downturns market, that's where money's made. That's where people make fortunes. That's where people make the most amount of moves that have been like sitting on the sideline when everybody's making a move and everybody's running around doing crazy stuff. Then they're like, let me wait till this cools off. Let me just pocket the cash. Let me just wait. Let me sit on it. And now all of a sudden you see foreclosure. This guy can't pay his lease, so he's got to get out of it. Oh, here's another car. And you see, oh, Lamborghinis, Uruses, all these nice cars, majorly on sale. Huh, thank God I didn't pay $100,000 over asking price, because I can buy the same car now for half that. And yeah, probably even better because it's way cheaper now, right? So yeah, we're in some funky times. I'm telling you, keep your wallet close and make sure that every dollar you spend is the right one. And make sure it's for a good cause, right? That will benefit you, networking, doing LinkedIn, doing the right thing. And I've gotten messages from you guys saying, hey, I've been putting myself out there, and I've got, you know, watch your videos, and I've been trying to get back into networking, and I'm slowly starting to do it, and I've got some positive feedback. And I always say, fantastic, keep it up, because this is what it's all about: providing value, helping your next door neighbors, helping each other to do better, because it's just how it is. But you got to be aware. You got to be doing the right thing, and don't be chasing shiny objects. And I'm guilty of that too. I used to chase shiny objects, right? So let me know what you guys think. And if you haven't, please like and subscribe and make videos like this all the time. And if you want to send me an article send it to me. The email's in the about section, and I read them, have conversations with you guys. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'd love that. As you guys know, I always network, and I try to be, what I preach. So shoot me a DM and we'll connect. But if you're not gonna ask, I don't know that you're watching. So see ya in the next one.